Hey guys, so today is the Industrial Revolution part 2, not part 1, which was yesterday, but part 2. Okay, so if you have not seen part 1, you need to actually take a look at that. A couple reasons, but the biggest one is that there's instructions on how to access the notes and how to take the notes for sort of these yesterday's video and today. The other reason is that if you're looking at part 2 and you haven't learned about part 1, they go together and they go in this order, so it wouldn't make a whole lot of sense to you today. Now, the other thing, guys, so if you haven't seen part number 1, you need to stop this one right now. Like now. No, really, like you should stop this video if you haven't already. Stop it. Stop. Okay, so stop this video, take a look at the other one, and then you can come back to this one. Okay, now, here's the thing. Some of you that did say you did part 1, you answered the question on it as if you had never seen the video. Now, you gave many of you gave me some amazing information, very good, solid information on the worldwide industrial revolution. When you talk about European imperialism and the expansion of capitalism and all these things that were going on. But this is US history class. And I gave you a to-do list, right? And it has a certain order of things, right? And one of the things was you watch the video and then you do the assessment. Well, some of you are trying to do the assessment and you don't watch the video. But this answer to the quiz question or the assessment question was in the video. That's why a lot of you got zeros for yesterday's assessment. Now, if you would like to not have a 0, you can go back in and redo it, but make sure you have watched that other video. Okay, so today you're gonna have 2 questions. They're gonna come directly from today's lesson. Today's from the PowerPoint, from the notes, from what I'm gonna tell you, all that kind of stuff. Okay, so be prepared. Know that's coming. Once you finish this, then you can go and take your assessment. Now, if for some reason you did it backwards again, you'll be able to retake it. I'll go in and get your most likely 0 in there for you, and you can go in and retake the assessment after you've watched this video, okay? But you guys have got to get in the habit of following the order and the to-do list that I give you, because I do actually do it for a reason. Okay, it's not just something I randomly throw them together. I promise you, just like so many other things that we've done this year, they're actually in the order that I need them to be in for you. Okay, so I promise I'm not just flying by the seat of my pants on this stuff. I promise. Okay, so on to today's amazing lesson that all of you have been waiting with such bated breath to learn about. I know it. All right, so here we go, guys. I'm going to go ahead and get this PowerPoint brought up here for you so you can take a look at it, okay? All right, here. And ta-da! Yay! Isn't that awesome? I know you're excited just like I am. Probably not. Okay, so this is the Industrial Revolution in the United States, part number 2. So again, if you have not seen part number 1, you should not have even gotten this far into the video. But I'm glad you did, because hi. Now stop and go watch part number 1. All right. Now, as far as the Industrial Revolution here in the United States. So yesterday we talked about the causes and some of the inventions. Today we're going to take a look at the effect of this Industrial Revolution here in the United States, or kind of what are some of the changes that start to come about, and then we're going to look again, just kind of mention some of the inventions, because those inventions are so terribly important and how they fundamentally help shift huge sections of the U.S. population. Okay. All right. So first of all, you need to understand this idea of capitalism and free enterprise. There's a growth of it here in and during the Industrial Revolution. So what is capitalism and free enterprise? Well, it is the ability to operate competitively for a profit with minimal government involvement. The idea here would be that if you wanted to open up a factory, go for it, right? You want to try and make that cloth just a little bit cheaper or a little bit better or whatever it is, and you want to make the money and you want to compete against the factory down the road, man, go for it. That's the idea of free enterprise and capitalism. And the other big part of this, guys, actually is a minimal government involvement. So that's sort of been an underpinning of U.S. version, if you will, of capitalism is the government is involved in certain things, but most businesses actually are really with like less government interference because they want to be able to function and run their companies to the best of their ability. Okay. And they know that if they do that, then over time they're going to be able to stick around and they're going to make more money. I mean, at the end of the day, that's really what's going to happen. Okay. Now, other big effect of the Industrial Revolution was how cities developed. Okay. Now we've had large cities for, relatively speaking, we've had large cities since the founding of the country, right? I mean, they developed right along rivers and ports and all that kind of stuff. Okay. But in this era, there's a shift that starts to happen because really before the Industrial Revolution, it was almost like Jefferson's dream of an agrarian society. Remember, we mentioned that yesterday, but cities begin to develop. Okay. Now, one of the biggest reasons that cities begin to sort of say develop, that means they grow in population, they get larger in size, all those things, is because really for the first time, you could go and get a different kind of job. I mean, before the Industrial Revolution, if your family were farmers, then most likely you were going to be a farmer. If say, your dad was a blacksmith, then the sons most likely would be some kind of blacksmith, something similar to that, right? You sort of basically did the same job that your parents had done because that's what they taught you how to do. Well, as cities begin to develop, different kinds of jobs start to open up. So for those of you who have done the reading, you know that the textile mills open up, and this is an opportunity for those families, and particularly the young women, the girls, even if we're being honest, 8-year-olds, right, to go and do something that their parents had not done. And so different jobs start to open up, more people start to move into the cities. Some of the other developments in cities, you have things like libraries and museums and shops. I mean, shops, guys, for us is so, we don't even think about it, right? If we want to go get something, we either, maybe we order on Amazon. I know it's taking long with Amazon now, or maybe we just go to Walmart or Publix or wherever. We just go get stuff, and stuff from all over the world comes and we're able to buy it. But in this era, for a long time, really throughout most of human history, if it wasn't made right there where you lived, you didn't get it. You didn't have it. Like if it was a certain type of food or whatever, that's just it. Well, in this time period, that begins to really fundamentally change the United States. So these shops would have goods from all over the country and really all around the world would come, and you could go there and you could buy that stuff, right? So you could go get your flour and maybe a new bed all in the same store, right? And so this is a library started to develop. People getting to learn. There's an increase actually in sort of overall knowledge and of the common person. But again, museums, people go look at the stuff, art, all these kinds of things start to become more and more accessible to people. Okay. All right. So that's one of the major effects is the development of cities. Now, another huge effect of the Industrial Revolution is actually a significant increase in overall cotton production in the United States. And obviously, as we've talked about before, that means the South. Okay. The South cotton production skyrockets in this era. Okay, really and truly, the South had always had, for a long period of time, I say always, but really a long period of time, had some pretty high percentage of worldwide cotton production. But in this area, it starts to dominate. We get this thing called king cotton that develops. But as that happens, farmers in the South didn't really pay attention to overusing and overworking their land, but they didn't begin to realize that, wait a minute, it's not doing as well. I need to move west. There's tons of land out west. They start to move out west. This is where we talked about sectionalism and how all that starts to come about. All right. So more land out west, increased cotton production as well. Also with this increase in cotton production, there's an increase in slaves, demand for slaves. So demand for slaves increases as demand for cotton increases. They go hand in hand, guys. Okay. And so we're going to talk about the cotton gin again in a minute, just because we talked about it yesterday. But again, guys, there are some historians that believe that if Eli Whitney does not develop the cotton gin, the United States never has a civil war. Now, I don't know that that's completely true. I think it might have delayed it. I don't know. Really, it definitely would have made it. I'll say this: it would have made it far less likely that it would have happened. Okay. But again, you got to understand, demand for slaves increases as demand for cotton increases. And this is why you'll hear me say that, yes, the South had slavery, and yes, that's what they're using for cotton production, but the North also had a role in this, and that they were using that cotton. They had no problems buying the cotton from the Southern plantations. So to say that the North was clean as the wind-driven snow when it comes to slavery really isn't a very accurate understanding of U.S. history. Okay. Now, another huge effect is what's called lifestyle changes. Okay. Now, as people move into the cities, all right, they actually have an increased risk of disease. Now, we understand that really actually a lot today. It's pretty pertinent to us even today, right? Is that if you look around the United States today, look around the country, you'll see that the major sort of what they call hotspots for the COVID-19 virus is the major cities. So, for example, in New York, they've got New York, I think it's New York State, but in particular, New York City even has somewhere around 40% of all the COVID-19 cases in the United States. Well, why is that? Well, it's because people are living on top of each other and all kinds of different things. And this breeds disease. Okay, now, in this era, the disease was not necessarily caused because people were living on top of each other, it's because they had a lack of sanitation. And if you don't know what sanitation is, guys, that's sewers. And that's when you go to the bathroom, it doesn't just kind of hang out in your house. It goes somewhere else. They didn't have this kind of stuff that we had today. And those lack of sanitation would have bred disease. Okay? So another huge change is, and we talked about how there was different types of jobs. Now people all of a sudden, they're starting to become more willing to move just for a job. Okay, now that's something that it's pretty common in the United States today. We have this mobility. A lot of people can move if they want to get a different job. One of the reasons I moved back to Florida from Illinois is for work. I mean, that's just an honest truth. And so this is still a fairly common thing here in the United States. People move for their jobs. I have a good friend who's actually looking to move to Florida with his job. He's hoping to be able to do that, right? And so this mobility starts during the U.S. Industrial Revolution. Now, the other thing that starts to happen, child labor. Now, if you've taken a look at the reading for this week, you know that in those textile mills, you had girls as young as 8 years old working in them, and they were working 12, 13, 14-hour days. I mean, could you imagine doing that even at your age now? I mean, just doing the same thing over and over and over again for 12 hours straight, 7 days a week. That's hard stuff, guys. Now, eventually we get this figured out. We eliminate this whole child labor thing, but it is something that changes. It changes the dynamic of families. Now the kids can go off to a job to help support the family. So again, years before, maybe you had kids that would be doing chores around the house or helping on a farm. Now what they're doing is some of them are going off to the city to bring in money. And so this shifts what happens on these farms, and all this is just a huge, huge change that's starting to happen in society. All right. And again, all of this is that part of that transition from rural or country types of societies and families to urban societies. So again, that's just like we talked about that very beginning of all this, talked about going from agrarian or agricultural society to one based on industry. This is the part of that same thing, country or rural to urban or city societies. Okay. Now, the last part of this really deals with a lot of the inventions. We call this effect and change in production. It's really just the inventions is what we're looking at today. Okay, now we've talked about the Lowell system here, or the factory system as it's more commonly called. And this is where Francis Lowell brings all the production of cloth making under one roof. Okay, so he puts it all together. He says, oh, we're going to do all this in this one place. This makes his process and his factories far more profitable because he can do it all there. He doesn't have to move it around. There's no lost time for transportation, all that kind of stuff. Okay, and then you have good Mr. Eli Whitney. Now, not only did Eli Whitney have the cotton gin, and this impacts cotton production, but he also, the idea of having these identical parts in every single machine, right? Every machine used the exact same handle. Okay, it wasn't custom to each individual cotton gin. That meant then the identical parts means you could replace broken parts. So if the handle breaks, you can just replace the handle. You don't have to redo the whole thing. Okay, seems pretty common sense to us now. but it actually wasn't then. Okay, now, you guys remember that first day of that question, Samuel Morse? Yes, most of you, or a lot of you, got this right with the telegraph, which eventually leads to the telephone, which then leads to your cell phone. All right. Then you have this guy by the name of Cyrus McCormick, and he comes up with this thing called a mechanical reaper. And really what this does is it allows the harvesting on farms to be done by far less labor. Again, guys, this means lower cost, more profit. You keep hearing me say this. It's like, guys, profit was a huge driver in this. People were trying to make money. Okay. I mean, it's just bottom line, they were. And the last thing, one of the big changes though, occurs in how we get places and how we get things places. Okay. We have canals that were being built. Remember, we talked about the Erie Canal before spring break. We have roads that are being built. I mean, and then eventually trains, you know, kind of like that Thomas. No, wait, no, Thomas was on Sodor. No. Anyhow, we did talk about in the Oregon Trail that one of the reasons the Oregon Trail falls out of favor is that you have the Transcontinental Railroad that comes into play. We talked about the Gadsden Purchase. The reason we bought it was because we wanted the railroad to kind of the southern swing there, okay? We wanted another path for the railroad out west, okay? These railroads actually become very important, or maybe lack of railroads, really a better way to look at it, when we take a look at the reasons or different pros and cons to the North and the South as we enter into the Civil War. Okay, so this transportation changes, becomes a huge deal, guys. Okay, so there are some of the effects of the U.S. Industrial Revolution. Here's a little bit more information on, I've given you a little bit more on the inventions, all that kind of stuff. Now it's your turn to show me what you know. So you're going to have count them, two questions of the day. That's two, not one, not three, not four, not 10, but two questions. Okay. Question number one is name two of the major effects of the U.S. Industrial Revolution. And question number next is name two of the inventions in today's lesson. The way you'll answer these is not on a piece of paper, not by sending it to me in some kind of message, but going into the assessment for today. That is right, folks. There'll be two questions on your assessment. That's right. Count them. One, two questions on your assessment today, and this is them. So if you don't know the answers to this, take a look at your notes. If you're like, I don't see it in my notes, maybe I missed something, you can pause this video, you can go back and you can go back and you can review the video. That's the advantage of it being on video. Alrighty, guys. So again, if you have any questions about any of this, let me know. Send me a message. It's me. Remind. Are you not on Remind? Why are you not on Remind? Why are you not on Remind yet? I'm looking at you. I'm watching you. Have a good day, guys.